Chosen one, sit down. Put the phone in your hand a little closer. Lower the noise around you. Because what you are about to hear is the reason your spirit has been uneasy for weeks, and you could not name it, and you could not explain it, and you could not pray it away. Tonight God is naming it for you. There is a person in your life who has been smiling in your face and working against you in private. They have called themselves your friend. They have sat in your moments. They have heard your prayers out loud. They have eaten what you cooked and laughed at what you said. And the entire time, something underneath their friendship was not friendship. It was access. It was study. It was harvest. And tonight heaven is pulling the mask off. This is not paranoia. This is not the wound talking. This is not bitterness looking for a target. This is the Spirit of God doing what he has always done for those he loves. He is uncovering what was hidden so that you do not waste another year of your life pouring into a vessel that was built to drain you. Listen to me carefully. Friendship that does not have heaven in it cannot survive the season you are about to enter. And God refuses to bring you into your next chapter still tied to a person who has been quietly working against your peace. Hear me clearly. The reason you have felt off around them lately is not because you have become judgmental. It is because the Lord has been sharpening the gift inside you that detects what eyes cannot see. You used to ignore the tightening in your chest when their name appeared on your screen. You used to override the strange flatness you felt after a conversation that was supposed to lift you. You used to talk yourself out of the small sting that came when they responded to your good news in a way that did not match the size of what God had done. You called it overthinking. You called it being too sensitive. You called it the enemy trying to ruin a good thing. But God is saying tonight, that was not the enemy. That was me, trying to get you to look at what you have been refusing to look at. A divine exposure has begun, not because God is cruel, because God is faithful. He will not allow a person who is praying against you, talking around you, or studying you to keep eating from the same plate as you. The blessing on your life has reached a weight that cannot be carried with a leak in your circle. Something has to be removed. Someone has to be revealed. And the revealing is not punishment. The revealing is protection. If you can feel this word touching the exact place that has been aching, do something for me right now. Go to the comments and write, God expose what I have been ignoring. Just type those words. Let your fingers agree with your spirit. Because the moment you declare that, you are not asking for drama. You are not asking for revenge. You are asking for sight. You are asking the one who sees in secret to bring his light into the places of your life that have been quietly bleeding. Now lean in, because what I am about to tell you will explain everything you have been sensing. There is a kind of person who does not come into your life by accident. They come on assignment. They smell the favor on you before you can see it on yourself. They notice the shift in your countenance before you notice the shift in your prayers. They watch you climbing out of seasons that should have killed you, and instead of celebrating, something inside them tightens. They do not know how to be near someone. The heavens are clearly lifting. So they do what wounded people do when they refuse to heal. They get closer, not to support, to survey. They want to know what you carry, where you are tender, what you fear, what you are praying about, and what you are still waiting on. They are not collecting memories, they are collecting material, and they do not even fully understand why. This is one of the most painful truths in the kingdom, and it is one C.S. Lewis once gestured at when he spoke about the strange weight of human glory, the way one soul can either help carry another toward heaven or quietly help drag them somewhere lower. He understood that the person you walk beside is never neutral. They are always doing one of two things in the unseen realm. They are either pulling you upward into who God created you to be, or they are pulling you sideways into a smaller version of yourself that they can manage. And tonight, God is exposing someone who has been pulling you sideways for a very long time. You did not see it because they were skilled. They knew when to bring food. They knew when to remember your birthday. They knew when to send the right verse at the right moment so you would feel guilty for sensing anything strange about them. They studied your kindness and used your kindness as a shield against your discernment. Every time the Spirit of God tried to whisper a warning, they would say or do one well-timed thing that made you feel ashamed for almost listening. That is not friendship. That is management. They were managing your perception of them so that they could continue to have access to a life God was preparing for elevation. But heaven has a way of running out of patience with deception. Heaven will let a thing hide for a season because God is more interested in your growth than in your comfort. But the moment that hidden thing begins to threaten the calling on your life, God moves. He does not negotiate. He does not warn the deceiver. He removes the mask in front of his child so that his child can finally see what the father has been seeing the whole time. Some of you are already feeling something rising in your chest, a memory you tried to bury, a conversation that did not sit right, a moment you replayed too many times wondering if you were imagining the tone, a piece of information that ended up in the wrong hands and you never figured out how. A door that closed right after they walked through your life. Tonight the Spirit is bringing those memories back up, not to torture you, but to confirm you. You were not crazy. You were not too much. You were not paranoid. You were a child of God whose Spirit was trying to protect them. And now the natural eye is finally being allowed to see what the Spirit eye has been seeing for a long time. There is a moment in the life of Jesus that almost no one preaches with enough weight. He sat at a table with 12 men. 12. He had walked with them. He had eaten with them. He had washed their feet only hours before. And in that moment, surrounded by friendship that looked perfect from the outside, he said one of the most piercing sentences ever spoken on this earth. "One of you will betray me." He did not pull Judas aside. He did not start an investigation. He did not gather evidence. He let the truth fall in the middle of the table and watched what each heart did with it. And here is what is worth noticing tonight. Judas did not look different from the others. He had been part of the inner group. He had handled the money. He had heard every word Jesus spoke in private. He had been entrusted with responsibilities the outsiders never touched. Yet underneath all of that proximity, there was a transaction already being arranged. Chosen one, that is what the Lord is showing you tonight. Closeness is not the same as covenant. Access is not the same as alignment. Frequency is not the same as faithfulness. A person can sit at your table for years and never actually be sitting on your side. And the heart that has decided to betray will not look like betrayal until heaven decides it is time. The reason God is exposing this person now and not earlier is because earlier you would not have survived the loss. You were still building. You were still wounded. You were still leaning on their presence to feel less alone. Removing them at that stage would have left a hole in you that the enemy would have used to draw you into worse company. But God is patient. He waited until you had grown roots he could trust. He waited until you had learned to sit with yourself in silence. He waited until your identity was no longer dependent on who chose to stay near you, and only then did he begin lifting the corner of the curtain. Because the Father will not pull a mask off a face you cannot yet handle seeing. Pay attention to something I am about to say because it will preach to you for weeks. Loneliness was not your problem. The wrong company was your problem. And until God removes the wrong company, He cannot send the right company. Heaven does not crowd into rooms already filled with deception. The new friendships He has been preparing for you, the real ones, the ones that will not flinch when your name rises, the ones that will not require you to shrink to be loved, those friendships have been standing on the other side of this exposure. They could not enter until the door was made clean. If this is sitting on your chest the way I believe it is, take a breath right now and write in the comments, "I receive divine separation in Jesus' name." And while you are there, like this video so that the Lord can carry this word to the next chosen one who is sitting with the same ache and no language for it. Share it with one person whose discernment has been trying to speak to them. And if you are new to this channel, subscribe, because we are in a season of unveiling, and missing a single one of these messages could cost you clarity you cannot afford to lose. Now I want to take you somewhere quiet in the word that does not get the attention it deserves. There was a king named David, and David had a counselor whose name was Ahithophel. Ahithophel was not a stranger. He was not a casual advisor. The Bible records that his counsel was considered as if a man had inquired at the very oracle of God. That is how respected this man was in David's life. He was the inner circle of the inner circle. He prayed with David. He ate with David. He shaped decisions that touched a kingdom. And yet, when David's own son Absalom rose up against him, Ahithophel did not stay loyal. He joined the rebellion. He gave Absalom the very counsel he had once given David. The same brilliance that had built David up was used to plot David's downfall. Stop and let that settle. The wound of David in that season was not just that his son rose against him. It was that his closest friend rose with his son. David wrote about it later in a psalm that still leaks from the page. He said, "It was not an enemy that mocked me. Then I could have hidden myself. It was you, a man my equal, my companion, my familiar friend. We took sweet counsel together. We walked to the house of God in company." That is the cry of every chosen one who has ever discovered that the betrayal did not come from a stranger. It came from the table. But here is what most people do not stop to notice. David survived it. The throne survived it. The lineage survived it. And the very counsel meant to destroy David ended up being overridden by the providence of God working through another voice at exactly the right moment. The plot did not prosper. The covering held, and David was returned to his throne, wiser, softer, and clearer about who could be trusted with the weight of his life going forward. That is your story unfolding tonight. The exposure feels like loss, but the exposure is actually the saving. You are not losing a friend. You are being released from an assignment that was using friendship as its costume. God is not robbing you. God is rerouting you. And the very person whose absence feels like a wound today will, in a few months, feel like a door you cannot believe you used to leave open. Now listen to this, because some of you have been carrying a kind of confusion that the world cannot explain. You have noticed that every time you got close to a breakthrough, something would mysteriously deflate. Every time you stepped into a season of joy, an odd weight would settle on you. Every time you opened your mouth to share something good, you would later feel a strange exhaustion you could not trace. There is a reason for that. Words spoken about you in absence carry a heaviness in the spirit that the natural mind cannot detect. When someone close to you has been speaking small things over your name, repeating doubts about your character, planting seeds of suspicion in the soil of other people's minds, those words do not just disappear when the conversation ends. They sit in the atmosphere around your life until heaven dispatches truth to break them. And tonight, truth is being dispatched. The atmosphere around your name is being cleansed. Every false narrative that has been quietly circulating about you is hitting the wall of God's verdict. Every rumor passed in trusted rooms is being intercepted. Every misrepresentation of your motives is being silenced by the voice of the one who has known your motives since before you were formed. You may never get the satisfaction of confronting the source. You may never see the apology you deserved. But you will see something far greater. You will see the doors that were quietly closed begin to quietly open. You will see the favor that was being siphoned begin to flow back to the original recipient. You will see people who once cooled toward you for reasons you could not understand begin to warm again without explanation. That is the fingerprint of divine exposure, cleaning a name without a single argument from the one being defended. C.S. Lewis once said something in passing about pride that I want you to carry into this season. He observed that pride is essentially competitive, that it does not get satisfaction from having something, but from having more of it than the person next to them. And that is the spirit that has been operating in the friend God is exposing tonight. They did not necessarily want what God gave you destroyed because they hated you in the simple sense. They wanted it destroyed because they could not tolerate the contrast between your becoming and their stagnation. They could not pray for what they were not willing to pursue, so they tried to reduce yours, so they would not have to face theirs. That is a sad thing. That is something that should provoke pity in you before it provokes anger, because behind every pretend friend is a real wound that they refuse to bring to God. Behind every quiet betrayal is a person who chose proximity to your light instead of pursuit of their own. They wanted the warmth without doing the walk. They wanted the harvest without sowing the seed. They wanted to be near someone. Heaven was lifting because they thought nearness was the same as inheritance. But the kingdom does not work that way. You cannot inherit by association. You can only inherit by alignment. And no amount of access can substitute for a heart that has actually said yes to God in private. So when God exposes them, He is not only protecting you, He is offering them a mirror. Whether they look into it is between them and the Father. Your part is not to make sure they repent. Your part is to make sure you receive the clarity heaven is handing you and walk forward without looking back over your shoulder every 2 minutes, wondering what they are doing or saying. Lot's wife turned around once, and the turning cost her the rest of her story. Some of you cannot afford another look back at this person, not because they are dangerous in the dramatic sense, but because they have become an idol of explanation in your mind. You keep replaying conversations trying to make sense of what God already showed you. And every minute spent in that replay is a minute stolen from the future He has already approved. This is your activation, beloved. The Lord is asking you to release them tonight, not with bitterness, not with announcements, not with a long letter explaining everything you have noticed. Release them in the courtroom of your own heart. Hand the file back to the judge. Say out loud if you need to, I give you this person. I give you their motives. I give you the pieces I will never understand. I receive in exchange the peace they were not capable of giving me. That is the prayer that closes the door. That is the prayer that puts an end to the haunting. And there is one more posture God is calling you into. He is calling you into wise silence. Wise silence is not the silence of cowardice. It is the silence of someone who has learned that not every truth needs to be defended out loud, because the defender himself is on the case. You do not have to call people and explain what you discovered. You do not have to confront the friend with a list of evidence. You do not have to write a long message that lays out everything you have felt for the last year. The Lord is going to do the talking for you in rooms you would never even be invited into. Your job is to stay clean, stay quiet, stay close to Him, and stay focused on what He is building. Vindication does not require your voice. It only requires your obedience. Now hear this final word, because heaven wants to send you to bed tonight with something restored in your chest. You are not a fool for trusting them. You are not naive for believing in friendship. You are not stupid for not seeing it sooner. You are a child of God whose heart was designed to love openly, and the goodness in you is not the problem. The goodness in you was never the problem. The Father is not going to harden your heart to keep you safe. He is going to sharpen your discernment so that your softness can remain. There is a way to be tender and wise at the same time. There is a way to keep your heart warm without keeping your gates wide open to anyone who knocks. That is the maturity He is forming in you through this exposure. You are not becoming colder, you are becoming clearer. The friend that He is sending into the empty space is going to look different from anyone you have been used to. They will not require you to perform. They will not flinch when you tell them good news. They will not get strange when God blesses you. They will not need to be the center of every story for the friendship to function. They will be quiet in the right ways, and present in the right ways, and honest in the right ways. And you will recognize them by the absence of that old familiar tension you used to feel and learned to call normal. So tonight, mark it. Write it down somewhere. The Lord has begun an unveiling over your life that He is not going to undo. The mask is off. The clarity is set. The divine separation has been initiated. You may grieve. You may feel the strange weight of an empty seat at a table that used to be full. You may even, for a moment, miss the version of them you thought was real. That grief is allowed. That grief is human. But do not, beloved, do not mistake the grief for a signal to reopen the door. The door is closed because the Father closed it. And what He closes, no human longing can responsibly reopen. In one word, write in the comments how God is rebuilding you in this season. Clearer, lighter, wiser, freer, whole. Just one word. Let it be your banner over the days ahead. And if this message found you the way I believe it did, share it tonight with the one person in your circle who has been quietly carrying the same ache, because there is more than one chosen one being delivered through this word tonight, and you are part of how the deliverance travels. You are loved, you are chosen, you are covered, you are seen, you are being repositioned, and the friend who was pretending could not stay because the friend God is sending is already on the way. Sleep tonight under a different sky than you slept under last night. The one who watched you in secret is no longer in charge of your story. The one who has loved you in secret has stepped forward, and He is not whispering. He is declaring, and His declaration over you is the only voice that ever truly mattered.